in the print create the possibility to increase the understanding of some ideas, and Illuminism created the national state. And the creation of national state created the Industrial Revolution, and the Industrial Revolution created the world we are living. But now, Internet is making a cultural revolution similar to the print revolution. And then we have the global communication, as you know, because exactly you show movies around the world. We have global finances, some of you are talking global finances. But we have no global government, and will be no global government. And in fact, people, legal scholars, we're still thinking national systems. And we need national system, as we need city halls. The US Congress and the City Hall, and I know if you could candidate for mayor here, so it's okay. But, because a friend of him. But we need also something in the global system. And because no big country wants something bigger, it's complicated. And then was probably the creation of the Clash, was not a legal architect, but in Rome in 1998 they created this idea. A global system based on national states. And that's what we are. But before you can give me questions on legal issues, I don't know how to talk about
only one or two.
No. I like to present why I'm here, because it's true what the dean say. I came here to discuss about movies, not to discuss the law. So let me, and I like a dialogue with you, because I like to explore what the students of this school can do to explain better what we are doing. That is my goal before you make any other questions. Because we cannot lose time. And can you raise a hand, those who are in some way connected with the movie industry or you're studying? How many of you are connected? Okay, that's very good. Very good. How many lawyers we have here or studying law? Few. It's okay. It's okay. It's okay. That's good. So, do you have more questions? Can I go to this? Or
go ahead,
okay,
sure,
thank you.
No, they got me all the time.
I'd like to explain why prosecutors come to the film school to discuss movies. Because normally, when you see history, you see this national state and evolution of the king who control a land with an army. And then government needs legitimacy. So they start to apply some law, and then the idea to divide the king and the implementation of the law was the creation of judges. And then prosecutors. This took like 9 centuries. And then in 1998 we had no king, global king, no army, but we have 18 judges and 1 prosecutor trying to do justice in the world. And then my job is build my community. I need to establish my relation with my community because I serve you. So I have to find a way to explain to my community what I'm doing. And let me present 2 different challenges. One challenge for me is to explain to people on the ground, those who are suffering the crimes, what I'm doing, that I'm working for them. No, especially in Kenya, in Uganda, in Cote d'Ivoire, in Darfur, that I'm working for them. That is highly complicated, because contrary to what you believe, in those situations, society is deeply divided. So it's difficult for them. And I have used of my example, because probably you read it again, but I will do it in any case. When NGOs tell me about I'm not good enough to explain what we are doing, I explain to them, look, when I was a prosecutor in Argentina, I went to lunch to my mother's house, and I explained to her what I was doing, and she was furious with me. She was thinking General Videla, the general I was prosecuting, the former president of the country, was a nice man. My grandfather was a general, so my mother loved generals in general terms. But in addition, she was thinking General Videla was protecting her from the guerrillas. And that's the problem. Massive atrocities are committed by people who justify themselves saying they are protecting their own community. The community could be Hutus or Tutsis, communists or anti-communists, whoever. But they are protecting their own community. And that's why they're killing the others. I remember in my country, a discussion with the general who said, I told him, look, General, quite a private conversation, I said, but General, you cannot convince me that you were killing and torturing people to establish freedom and democracy. And he said, but prosecutor, these are our ideas, and they are the enemy. And that's the problem. As soon as you consider, and I don't like to make any example here, as soon as you consider somebody the enemy, you can do whatever you want against him. And the ICC is revolutionary because it has a global idea that there is no enemies in the world. We have a law in the world, and they're criminals. And then you can use the criminal court to deal with them. That's why it's a revolution. So going back to the idea...
You did answer my question.
Yeah?
Thank you.
Yeah, I'm finishing. I told you I need 5 minutes at the beginning. Then, the first idea I'd like to present to you is, I had my first challenge when I was a prosecutor in Argentina was how to convince my mother. I had to convince the judges, but I had also to convince my mother. And the funny thing is, when I was explaining to her what I was doing, she did not believe me. And she was still thinking I was wrong. After 2 weeks, the trial started, she called me and she said, I still love General Videla, but you are right, he has to be in jail. That's why I believe the ritual trial that the movie is abusing, because a beautiful ritual, is a ritual in which people imagine where you can be in the same place, the killers and the victims. It's impossible. And the trials, they are there, and they have to respect each other, and there are rules. So the trial ritual is beautiful, and it's basically a lesson of respect. And that's what I learned in my country when the trial was moving, people like my mother learned. And in fact, some of the witnesses were so shocking that their testimonies became books, and the books became movies, and the movies are, everyone knows what happened because the movies at the end. And so that's why I need some tools to explain in different situations what I'm doing. But then, in addition to that, I need to reach you. In Los Angeles, no one is committing crimes against humanity, no one is committing genocide. So why you will be connected with that? So I need movies connecting you with the problem. No? And that's why, for me, today, after us, will be 2 interesting persons, or 3 interesting persons. Sid Chandler knows everything about movies, and he will explain to us how movies change. For instance, the word Holocaust, to just poor Holocaust with no other reference to in the meaning of what happened with the Jewish community in the Second World War, was used for the first time in the New York Times in 1959. But Holocaust with capital letter was 10 years later. And what created this narrative? Very important part of this narrative were 2 movies, Anne Frank Diary and The Nuremberg Trial with Spencer Tracy. So not just the trial itself, the movie about the trial was critically important to build this narrative. And this created now Holocaust is clearly what is Holocaust. And movies are making 2 miracles, reducing time and reducing space. And that's very important because distance in time and distance in space reduce our moral ability. If someone killed my neighbor, it's a big deal. If a person died in Chile, okay, it's different. And if someone died 2 centuries ago, something. So Shoah is collecting archives of people who died or who were involved in it or who were victims of crimes decades ago. And they will explain how they are trying to work in other genocide. And Invisible Children is the most fantastic group of people I know in terms of new group trying to help the world to move and to improve. And it's funny because most of them are members of this, were students of this school, and they will explain how not just a film in Uganda, how they use the film to connect Ugandan young people and American young people. So that is how they learn even how to go to institutions. They approve a law in the US Congress. So that is for me what I need. I need this type of experiences. That introduction. And to finish, and then you're free to do whatever you want. My goal is to discuss with you, because we discussed with the dean, my goal is to discuss with you what you can do to explain the course. And one idea I had in mind is maybe you can produce 30-second clips that we can even document the channel, agree to have to put them in a program and then give an award to the best. And we're discussing how to use these 30-second clips to disseminate through Twitter. And we can discuss and watch. But the dean was right. The best idea because we need to engage young people. So the best idea is ask the young people what you think we should do and what you like to do. And that is the goal of this meeting for me. Okay? Ask you what you think you can do to explain in Los Angeles what's happening in Uganda, or to explain to my mother that the general is a bad guy, or people like that, or to connect the show archives, what will happen today. And to help on that, I'd like to mention, because we have a special guest today, Romeo Dallaire, General Romeo Dallaire, who was the UN Canadian general who was running the peacekeepers in Rwanda, is here with us. Can you stand?
General Dallaire, would you please stand up?
You know, and he will explain to us, we're discussing that idea, what the meaning of Hotel Rwanda to explain the genocide. What he think about the movie, how the movie kept the presence, and other details, including what does he think about Nick Nolte representing General Dallaire. So that's the plan. After now we can do whatever we want.
I have another question. One of the things you've been talking about just recently in the questions that you posed to the students is, to a certain extent, technological. How we can use these new tools, Twitter, quick, student film, guerrilla videos, as well as big feature films, to reach audiences both in the countries where the court is working, as well as in the countries where the court is not working but needs the global political will, like the United States, to support its work. I want to ask also about the way in which cinema can be used on the human side, in addition to or it can be a tool in addition to the technological side. You had talked about your mother, and explained a little bit of your mother. You talked about how she came from a family of generals. One of the things the court has to do is to bring to life and dramatize these crimes. They have to make them human in some way or another. And in addition to its technological and distribution reach, cinema has power as a human medium. What are some of the issues that you are concerned about in bringing to life the different players in these terrible atrocities? One of the big questions: how do you represent the bad guys? How do you bring them to life? In a way that's meaningful for the court. It's a tough question.
That's funny.
You're
a question you have with Ted, because I believe we need movies, and we need to put movies in education. And Angelina Jolie is in a movie on Yugoslavia conflict. She's a strong supporter of the SEC, and last time she was with me, she explained to me she wrote and directed a new movie about what happened in Yugoslavia. And I was telling her, it would be great, we can use the movie in education in Yugoslavia. And he said, okay, Luis, you have to see the movie first. Then I saw the movie. I stopped 5 minutes later because, wow, it was so, she had no mercy. She presented what happened in a war. And then it's awful, it's difficult. And yet I saw it with Ted. And Ted was one of better than me, how she presented.
The film that the prosecutor is referring to, The Land of Blood and Honey, will come out, I think, at Christmas time. And it's the story of a young woman, Bosnian Muslim woman, who is in her late 20s and looking for love. And at the beginning of the story, she meets a Serbian policeman, and it seems as though there might be a possibility for something between them. And the war very quickly erupts. Her town is completely decimated by the occupying forces. Horrible, crimes occur. Men are killed. Families are separated, and she's quickly made a kind of slave of this group of Serbian soldiers the commander of which is the policeman that she had started to fall in love with. And so the film ends up dramatizing their relationship, and it's woven together facts that she has collected and gotten to know about what actually happened on both sides of this conflict and in both sides of these kinds of relationships, but done it in such a way that that the human drama of what happens between two human beings put under the extraordinary circumstances of the kinds of atrocities that the court investigates, what kinds of things happen between human beings under those kinds of pressures. And as it turns out, the bad guy is not so bad. And not so easy to do.
He does awful things.
He does awful things, but he's humanized. And the victim of these atrocities is also humanized. One of the things that I think both documentaries and fictional films that deal with these kinds of crimes often fall prey to is that the victims are made to seem just that, victims. They're agentless. They're victims in the criminal sense, but also in the human sense. But what her film did such a magnificent job is this woman still had human capacity. She still had the power to change her life, and she was still caught in human dilemmas, as was our captor, the policeman, the Serbian criminal. Is it important for audiences to understand what motivates both parties in these situations?
I don't know. Can we invite Romeo Dallaire to explain about the Taekwondo?
Absolutely.
Romeo, can you come and explain a little? Yeah. Because Romeo was telling me that, of course, the movie Hotel Rwanda is not a documentary, and there are some areas where not exactly what he knows was happening, but in some way escaped from the Angelina movie. Angelina is presenting the third officer and his victim, in some way both are victims of the war. Both are victims of the war, and that's why the way he found to stop the system is surrounding himself as a war criminal. And in Hotel Rwanda, we have more the classic system, which there are bad guys, and Romeo is a good guy. He was a good guy, he was trying to do the best he could, but also the Hotel Rwanda guy is a good guy, and then there are different views. So, what's the difference between reality and fiction? How good was the fiction for Rwanda?
I think if I may initially state that it was absolutely essential to keep the Rwandan genocide alive. And although we had the International Criminal Court going on in Arusha and testifying there, it didn't necessarily project that this massive abuse of human rights and genocide had happened and that people were conscious of it. So very early on, the idea of a film, a feature film, was considered to be an absolutely essential tool to ensure that as much as possible people would see it. The question is how do you make a movie out of a genocide? And so the proposed one that got made, which is Hotel Rwanda, took a component of the genocide and a hero, as we discussed, in the Hotel Michelin manager, and built around a small group of people who were targeted the story of the genocide and how some attempted to save and keep a modicum of humanity alive in a totally inhuman set of circumstances. And so how far do you dramatize this? You can go documentary, you could go a docudrama option, or you can go fiction. And I believe that although we can say Hotel Rwanda has a fiction to it, it is still a reality. And that reality may have been skewed a bit, but it's achieving the aim. And I go with the prosecutor on that is what is the aim of these movies? These movies are there to inform, to educate, and to impress your senses that leaves you with an impact to hopefully react to. Either you fall asleep, which probably we don't hope that will happen, or you even go to become an activist, getting involved. And how did it happen? And where was I when that was going on? And what do I do about it? Now, the fact that I don't like Nick Nolte has got nothing to do with him playing my position. The fact they didn't read my book before they made it has nothing to do with it either. And the fact that Philip Gorovitch, from which the, and it's just a small part of his book, the film was made of, didn't necessarily have the facts all lined up, I don't think detracts from the fact that it had good actors, had a good screenplay, was filmed professionally, and it cut the guts of the problem. And so, yeah, it was, as some people pejoratively say, it was Hollywoodized, if I can use that term, but it still achieved the aim of keeping the genocide alive. And I think that's the essence of what you want to do, is keep it alive and informed. My last comment, I'm giving you a short answer, for general anyways, it's a short answer. What's important about the movie is it's sort of like intelligence. Intelligence, you collate intelligence, but one of the most important facets of it is the dissemination of intelligence to the people who can use it. And so making a movie that can't be distributed, or doesn't have a distributor, or is only available in cinema verite, every now and again, does not achieve the aim necessarily, unless you're looking for the elite sort of perspectives and people who might be academically so inclined or specifically inclined. It must reach the masses. And so a movie without a distributing base will not achieve the aim that you're seeking. So Hotel Rwanda did have that, and has achieved that aim.
Thank you. We're in a kind of improvisatory mode here. Your preferred mode. Some of the points that General Larry just made, I think, lead me to want to ask some questions of Sid Sheinberg. Maybe this would be a good time, Sid, for you to join us. Would you mind? Ladies and gentlemen, Sid Sheinberg was the president and chief operating officer of MCA Inc., the parent of Universal Pictures, from '73 through the late '90s. And during that period of time, Universal Pictures produced the three most profitable films of the decade, the 1970s, the 80s, and the 90s: Jaws, Jurassic Park, and E.T., if I'm correct. He is currently the chair of, or the vice chairman of Human Rights Watch International. And during your tenure as the president of Universal Pictures, you oversaw the production of Schindler's List. The general was just speaking about the importance of getting the guts of a story out through and distributed to a wide public. To what extent are corporations like Universal or companies like the ones that you ran able to respond to these kinds of demands to be able to get these sorts of stories out to a wide public? What challenges do you face running a company like that, trying to get those stories to a wide audience?
Well, I think this is on?
Yes.
I think the recognition that a film without an audience is somehow defective in its purpose is accurate. Also, you can't deny the financial aspects of filmmaking and film distribution. And I emphasize distribution because you have the same problem of a film with a limited budget behind it isn't going to get the kind of distribution that's required. However, nobody really knows. I spent 12 years trying to get Steven to do Schindler's List. I'm slightly biased, but I think it's the best film ever made. I don't think anybody really appreciated the extent to which it would be successful. I actually took a financial reserve to protect us in the event that the film was not successful, although I thought it would be. I didn't think it would be at the level it turned out to be. So I guess the 25-word summary is the issue of the cost and the issue of the need to get distribution is absolutely one that has to be in mind. And right now, I think that the words documentary are nearly equivalent with the words, where are we going to get the money? There are more people, probably some in this room, I bet money that there's some in this room, who have films that need a third act, that need music. That's the last thing, you see. The money runs out, and they get some more money. Somebody gives them some more money for the music, but then they know something else they have to do. So 6 months later, where's the film? The film still needs music because, you see, we went back and shot that sequence that we needed. I don't know if I've answered the question or not.
You're on the trail, yeah. Your remarks about documentary lead me to another question. Your work in Human Rights Watch right now has led you, and led Human Rights Watch International, to turn to the cinematic arts, to film and video, as a resource for that. It's a different use of the medium than you were, in charge of at Universal. What's Human Rights Watch doing now, and how is that using cinema in a different way from the way in which you were accustomed?
Well, I would like not to distinguish between cinema in the sense of moving pictures and other forms of visual display. Human Rights Watch decided some years ago, when I hear these dates of this and that being 9 years ago and 8 years ago, it scares me because I realize how fast time flies. But Human Rights Watch made a decision that it was going to rely much less on the written word and getting the written word cleared through lawyers before they put out a piece of paper. I mean, that goes through more hands than, I don't know, seems necessary, but that's the way it is. They made a decision that they were going to rely much more on the internet and much more on visual display media, whether that includes the making of films. We have a dinner in all the cities where we presently have committees. That includes such places as Lebanon and Kuwait, as well as Los Angeles, Toronto, Chicago, New York, London, Paris, and so on. And I think there's no question but that in the future, I wouldn't get myself tied up with the word, with documentaries being connected to only film of the traditional sort. I think there'll be all kinds of things. I must say I disagree with the comment you made about 30 seconds being adequate.
We
That
were
was a subject of some discussion prior to this gathering. Maybe you can sell soap in 30 seconds, but I personally think that one of the dangers with the internet is, and one of the dangers with all of you people is that we're training you, and I don't pretend to be an expert in teaching, but I think we're training everybody now to do things faster, and if you can't do things, 3 things at a time, you're somehow deficient. And I don't know, maybe it's just that I'm older than I used to be. I was in Krakow. This is